18-Day Campaign Against Violence Against Women and Children is an annual international campaign that aims to raise awareness about the various forms of violence faced by women and children and to advocate for their rights and protection. This campaign begins on November 25th, which is the International Day of the Elimination of Violence Against Women, and ends on December 12th, which is the International Day of the Rights of the Child. Violence against women encompasses a wide range of abusive behaviors that are primarily targeted at women because of their gender. Over the next episodes, we will delve deeply into many issues related to violence and their impact, the many inspiring stories and practical steps towards a safer society. Together, let's raise our voices for change. This is 𝐕𝐢𝐴 and welcome to our 18-Day campaign.
Important disclaimer. This podcast may contain content, language, and discussions that could be unsuitable for certain audiences. Listener discretion is advised. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the podcast platform. Parental guidance is recommended. Additionally, please be aware that this episode includes discussions about violence against women. A trigger warning is issued, and we encourage sensitive listeners to exercise caution. Thank you for understanding.
Hello, and welcome to our continuing discussion on Republic Act 9775, which is the Anti-Child Pornography Law, and RA 9995, which is the Anti-Photo and Voyeurism Law of 2009. So, laman namin sa inyo, discuss natin sa inyo yung ating bago mga amendments sa mga batas na ito at makikita natin na mas stricto na ngayon at mas binibigyan na rin ng protection kapag online kasi karamihan sa ating mga krimen ngayon ay nagaganap online. So let's start sharing our screen with you. Okay, so we will now discuss the anti-online sexual abuse or exploitation of children or yung 𝐂𝐚𝐦𝐸𝐾 or minsan tinatawag din na Anti-Child Sexual Abuse or Exploitation Materials Act, which is Republic Act 11930, approved last July 30, 2022. So yung anti-𝐂𝐚𝐸𝐾 law natin, repeal the Anti-Child Pornography Law. So it replaces the old law with the more aptly descriptive term child sexual abuse or exploitation material or child sexual abuse material. Kasi yung parang sa anti-child pornography law, parang pinipenalize natin, no? Pinapunish din natin yung bata or yung minor or yung child as the defined by law dito. Pinapakita talaga na sila yung biktima, no? The 𝐂𝐚𝐸𝐾 expanded the coverage of the previous law to include materials that focuses on the genitalia or other private body parts of the child, removing the previous qualification that such exhibition must be lascivious. Dapat kasi noon parang malaswa talaga, bastos. But here, kapag nagfo-focus na tayo sa genital or other private parts of the child, ito ay violation na ng 𝐂𝐚𝐸𝐾 law. So the child victim is not required to be presented in court during trial and shall testify in accordance with rule and examination of a child witness. Sa korte, alam natin na dapat na mako-confront natin yung accuser. So kung nandyan po yung complainant, dapat question natin sila, ma-confront ng akusado face to face. But here, we have a rule on examination of a child witness. Pwede yung sa video lang, either nasa loob ng korte or nasa remote, para hindi na rin masyadong ma-intimidate yung bata or yung child witness at hindi na siya magbabalik na naman sa kanyang pinagdadaanan o yung ordeal, no, that they have to go through again. Again, this is the definition of a child. Alam na natin, no, is a person below 18 years of age or those who are unable to fully take care of themselves from abuse, neglect, cruelty, exploitation, or discrimination because of physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory disability or condition. So dapat daw dito sa purposes ng act na ito, ang child may also refer to a person regardless of age who is presented, depicted, or portrayed as a child as defined herein. So kahit above 18 na siya pero parang pinapalabas natin sa ating mga post or sa ating mga videos na ito ay child kahit above 18 na. Or ito computer generated, meron na tayong AI ngayon, or manually crafted images, yung magandang pagka-drawing or graphics ng tao na nire-represent natin na child at hindi naman siya below 18. So kasali po yan siya sa definition ng child. Ang child sexual abuse naman po refers to any form of communication through any platform or format or any physical interaction between a child and any person when the child is being used for any act or activity inducing sexual stimulation for the purpose of sexual gratification of the child, regardless of the gender of the perpetrator or the victim or the consent of the victim. Okay, so dito po yung child as defined kanina ay naging biktima ng mga activities nag-i-induce ng sexual stimulation or the purpose of sexual gratification or to have sexual intercourse doon sa bata, no? So maaring babae, lalaki ang biktima or maaring babae at lalaki din po yung perpetrator. May consent man or wala ng biktima. So the CSAEM or CSAM, the child sexual abuse or exploitation material or child sexual abuse material, so refers to any material, whether offline or through with the use of information and communication technology by means of visual, video, audio, written, or any combination thereof by electronic, mechanical, digital, optical, or any other means, no? Yung child is engaged or involved in real or simulated sexual activities, totoo man or hindi, or depicting acts of sexual abuse or exploitation of a child as a sexual object. It shall also include materials that focus on the genitalia or other private body parts of a child. So, ayan, itong mga material na hawak natin na nag-depict ng child sa real or simulated sexual activities or ginagamit ng sexual object yung bata or yung child, including materials na nag-focus doon sa genitalia or other private body parts ng bata. So, child sexual exploitation refers to any of the following acts, even if consent appears to have been granted by the child. So, kahit pumayag yung bata or yung child, ito ay child sexual exploitation. Number 1, with consideration, whether monetary or non-monetary consideration, favor or benefit in exchange for the opportunity to perform such abusive or exploitative act. Binayaran mo na, pumayag din siya, child sexual abuse pa rin yan siya. Child sexual exploitation pa rin siya. Yun, actual sexual intercourse with a child or children with or without consideration. So you have sexual intercourse with a child, which is someone below 18, with or without consideration, may bayad man or wala, or may consent man or wala. Employing fraud, machination, undue influence, intimidation, threat, or deception by any person to commit sexual abuse of or sexual intercourse with a child or children. So yung paggawa ninyo ng sexual intercourse sa bata ay may paglilinlang, panloloko, or intimidasyon, no? Or threat para ma-commit itong sexual intercourse sa bata. Number 4, any other similar or analogous acts related to child abuse, cruelty, or exploitation, or to be responsible for other conditions prejudicial to the development of the child. So, kahit hindi na siguro directly sexual in nature, pero halos kaparehas lang nito at prejudicial sa development ng child, ito ay child sexual exploitation. Grooming. Ano daw yung grooming? No? So, refers to a predatory conduct, act, or pattern of acts of establishing a relationship of trust or emotional connection by another with a child or someone who is believed to be a child, and or the family, guardian, or caregivers, whether in person or through electronic and other similar devices, for the purpose of perpetuating sexual abuse or exploitation or the production of any form of 𝐶𝐸M. So, parang kinokondisyon natin yung mind ng bata or ng mind ng kanyang guardian, ng parents, no? Para makuha natin yung trust, and later on, ginagamit na natin siya for ito, sexual abuse or exploitation, or pang hindi naman natin siya physically na inabuso, pero ginamit natin siya doon sa mga 𝐶SAM, no? Sa mga malalaswang materials. What is image-based sexual abuse or ISA? It refers to a form of technology facilitated sexual violence. So, violence na pertaining to sex, na gumagamit tayo ng information and communication technology. So the term describes a pattern of behavior involving the non-consensual creation, distribution, or threats to distribute nude or sexual images. So kasali dito yung diversity of sexual behaviors, including but not limited to sextortion, scam, the use of artificial intelligence to construct deepfake pornographic videos, threats to distribute photographs and videos, and the taking or sharing of sexual assault imagery. So we are familiar with this, no? Nasa social media, meron tayong kakilala or yung iba doon na public figure na ginagamit yung kanilang sexual acts na binidyo or yung mga nude pictures at piniperahan or pinipilit makipag-sex ulit kung hindi nila sinusunod, no? Sila tinatakot or bina-blackmail, no? Yung iba naman gumagawa ng mga artificial intelligence, gumagawa ng video na iba yung mukha, iba yung katawan, akala natin yun yung hubad na image ng isang babae or lalaki. Luring. So luring refers to the act of communicating by means of a computer system with a child or someone who the offender believes to be a child for the purpose of facilitating the commission of sexual activity or production of any form of 𝐶SAEM. So dito ginagamit rin natin ang information and communication technology with communicating with a child or who the offender believes to be a child para sa sexual activity or production of any sexual material. Online sexual abuse or exploitation of children, yung 𝐂𝐚𝐦𝐸𝐞, no? So ito ay paggagamit ng information and communication technology as a means to abuse and or to exploit children sexually. So it includes cases in which offline child abuse and or exploitation is combined with an online component. So merong mga offline na mga pamamaraan at kino-combine nila ang online component at ito ay kanilang dinidistribute, no? At pinapakita, which include but is not limited to the production, dissemination, and possession of 𝐶SAEM, online grooming of children for sexual purposes, sexual extortion of children, sharing image-based sexual abuse, commercial sexual exploitation of children through online prostitution, and live streaming of sexual abuse with or without the consent of the victim. Also, ganun din, no? With or without the consent of the victim, you will be liable for 𝐂𝐚𝐸𝐸. So yung mga sexual activity includes the following acts, whether actually performed or simulated lang. So sexual intercourse or lascivious act, including conduct involving the genitalia, oral stimulation of the genitals, or oral stimulation of the anus, whether between persons of the same or opposite sex, masturbation, sadistic or masochistic abuse, lascivious exhibition of the genitals, buttocks, breasts, pubic area, and anus, bestiality, I think this is sex between a person and animals, use of any object or instrument for lascivious acts or any other lascivious circumstance. Sexualization of a child refers to the act of using a child as an object for the sexual desire or satisfaction of another, even if there is no actual sexual intercourse or no private part of the body of the child has been shown. So yung ating mga definition kanina, no, merong nudity, pinapakita yung genital area, or may simulated sexual act. Dito hindi. Simple video siguro or picture lang ng child or bata, pero kino-connect natin siya sa sexual desire or satisfaction of another. So that is also considered as a violation of the 𝐂𝐚𝐸𝐸 law. Streaming, so ito yung nag-stream tayo sa Facebook, sa YouTube, no? Sa Messenger at iba pa, whether the viewer is passively watching or actively directing the content. So kahit hindi sila na nagjo-join doon sa live stream at kasali na yan siya, no, when the viewing occurs in real time. Okay, so unlawful or prohibited acts, nandito po. To hire, employ, use, persuade, induce, extort, engage, or coerce a child to perform or participate in whatsoever way in the creation or production of any form of 𝐂𝐚𝐦𝐻 and 𝐶SAEM. To produce, direct, manufacture, facilitate, or create any form of 𝐶SAM or participate in the production, direction, manufacture, facilitation, or direct or creation of the same. To offer, sell, distribute, advertise, promote, export, import, or by any means, any form of this 𝐶SAEM, to knowingly publish, transmit, and broadcast by any means, any form of 𝐶SAEM, and to permit or influence a child to engage, participate, or assist any form of 𝐶SAEM. So yan yung mga unlawful or prohibited acts. And ito rin, to produce, direct, no, create, hire, employ, to sa live stream, okay, to recruit, transport, transfer, harbor, provide, or receive a child, to influence or induce the same for the purpose of violating this act, to introduce or match a child to a foreign national or any person for the purpose of committing any act of the offenses under this act. So may mga naririnig tayo, itong ating mga Filipino minors, parang pinapakontak sa mga foreigners para exploit sila sexually or to use them in 𝐶SAEM. Para naman sa mga other prohibited acts for film distributors, theaters, and information and technology services, dinidispute nila itong mga ganitong materials or facilitate the commission of any other offenses under this act. To knowingly benefit from, financial or otherwise, the commission of any of the offenses. So, pagperahan no? Either financial or any other consideration. Nagbigay ka ng venue para dito sa prohibited acts. So, halimbawa sa private rooms, dens, cubicles, houses, or any other establishment, to provide in the luring or grooming of a child, no? Provided that grooming takes place offline as a prelude to violations under this act, which shall also be penalized. So kahit hindi online, offline yung grooming, pwede po siya as a preparatory act, which is also unlawful or prohibited. To sexualize children by presenting them as objects of sexual fantasy or making them conversational subjects of sexual fantasies, any online or digital platform, and to engage in pandering as defined under this act. To willfully subscribe, join, donate, or support an internet site, no, that hosts 𝐂𝐚𝐦𝐻 in the streaming or live streaming of child sexual abuse. Ito to advertise, print, to publish, to possess any form of 𝐶SAEM, provided that possession of 3 or more of these materials is prima facie evidence of the intent to sell, distribute, publish, or broadcast this. So may mga DVD tayo or books or magazines na 3 or more, ito ay isa ng sinasabi na batas na gusto mo na mag-sell o distribute nito mga pornographic materials nito. Bawal din ang to willfully access any form of 𝐶SAEM and to conspire to commit any of the prohibited acts stated in this section. Sabi dito, provided that the investigation or prosecution of offenses under this act shall be without prejudice to appropriate investigations and prosecutions mechanisms under Republic Act 9208, otherwise known as the Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act of 2008 as amended. So kapag nasasali na siya sa Anti-Trafficking in Persons, madagdagan yung kaso natin, hindi lang po dito sa 𝐂𝐚𝐻, pati na Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act po, liable na to tayo. Ngayon, ang effect ng consent of the victim, hindi siya makapag-aswelto or maging depensa sa mga perpetrator or sa mga accused nitong mga unlawful acts na to. Protection of a good Samaritan. So, good Samaritan yung tumutulong, no? May mga taong either nagbablock ng internet or nagtatanggal doon sa website. So, yung mga taong may responsibility of reporting cases under this act, blocking an internet address, removing a website or domain, taking down of shared videos, pictures, or messages for the first services provided by the internet intermediary, and providing information for the purpose of investigation or prosecution of a case involving acts of 𝐂𝐚𝐦𝐻 shall not be held civilly, criminally, or administratively liable. So, in good faith, no, prevent niya po yung paglaganap nito mga sexual activities or sexual materials basta done in good faith. Dapat necessary to prevent in access sa or dissemination of 𝐶SAEM, and dapat reported within 24 hours from the act of blocking an internet address, removing a website or domain, or taking down of shared video, picture, or messages. So, merong taong na meron siyang kakayahan na stop itong mga live streaming ng mga malalaswa ng mga materials o pagpakita ng mga sexual acts ng mga minors, hindi siya makakasuhan whether civil, criminal, or administratibo. So, sino daw ang pwedeng mag-file na complaint? So, of course, the offended party, yung mga parents or guardians, ascendant or collateral relatives within the third degree of consanguinity, officer, social worker, or representative of a licensed child caring institution. So, usually sa private yan siya. So, sa government naman, yung mga taga-DSWD, meron din tayong local social welfare development officer. Usually, sila po yung mga namamahala sa mga bahay pag-asa. Number 7, any barangay official. Number 8, any law enforcement officer. Number 9, at least 3 concerned responsible citizens residing in the area where the violation occurred, or kahit isang tao lang, number 10, na merong personal knowledge of the circumstances of the commission of any offense under this act. Okay, so what's the difference between number 9 and number 10? Number 10, siya talaga mismo ang eyewitness, no? Ito naman sa number 9, baka itong tatlo lang ay circumstantial evidence. May nakakita na dinala, isa may nakakita may binivideo or pinipicturan, yung isa naman nakikita na nagdi-distribute ng mga 𝐶SAEM materials. Okay? Ano po ang epekto ng affidavit of desistance? Kapag affidavit of desistance, usually madidismiss na ang kaso kapag yung biktima or yung kanyang mga parents in the cases of minors ay nag-execute ng affidavit of desistance. Sinabi dito, cases involving 𝐂𝐚𝐻 and 𝐶SAM shall not be dismissed. So hindi siya madi-dismissed based on the affidavit of desistance executed by the victims of or their parents or legal guardians. Public and private prosecutors are directed vigorously oppose and manifest objections to motions for dismissal. Any act that unduly pressures the complainant to execute an affidavit of desistance shall be punishable under pinilit, niloko, binayaran ang biktima para mag-execute ng affidavit of desistance is punishable under this act. So that's the end of our presentation. I hope we have fully explained to you RA 9775, RA 9995,